This is ABC7 News at 7, your Suncoast News. We're here for you.
As long as America stands for justice, then peace and harmony will, in the end, prevail.
77 days into his administration, a change in momentum for President Trump. Congress is applauding his decision to launch airstrikes on Syria, but what is the next move? Meanwhile, Senate Republicans go to the nuclear option to get Neil Gorsuch on the Supreme Court, and the House Intel chair is stepping down from an investigation into contacts between the Trump campaign and Russia. Tonight, we'll have expert analysis of these stories and more. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alan Cohen, and welcome to ABC 7 at 7. We'll have more on the week in Washington coming up, but first, our top 7 stories at 7. And we begin tonight in Sarasota County, where the Sheriff's Office is revealing its latest effort to combat the opioid epidemic. It is called Operation Spring Smackdown. Sheriff Tom Knight holding a press conference today where he put up the photos of 28 suspects all arrested last month on drug-related charges. He says they have a combined 332 prior felony charges. Half are ex-cons. Sheriff Knight says even though crime is down, heroin and its analogs are taking a brutal toll on the Suncoast.
It saddens me that we're in this great community with all this wealth and money, and we still have this problem.
Many times arrests are sometimes a life-saving event for some of these folks, because if they otherwise would not have gotten arrested, they may be dealing with an overdose death.
According to the Sheriff's Office, there have been 71 opioid overdoses this year, 32 of them in March. New developments tonight in the case against former Sarasota County Sheriff's Deputy Frank Bybee. His attorneys have filed a motion for a protective order and court intervention. They tell us his conditions at the Sarasota County Jail are inhumane and unacceptable. Bybee was arrested back in January and is facing 20 felony charges, including attempted murder. He befriended an elderly woman and allegedly tried to kill her and steal her money.
They don't turn the lights off. He's monitored and watched 24/7, sleeps on the floor in what they call a boat on a plastic mattress. He's not given clothes. He was just given shoes about a week or so ago. He only gets a shower X number of days.
The Sarasota County Sheriff's Office says they can't comment on this because it is a pending investigation. The state's attorney's office could not be reached for comment. The motion will be heard in court by a judge sometime in May. Sarasota police are searching tonight for a possible suspect in a late-night shooting. According to officers, a juvenile was shot in the ankle at the intersection of North Orange Avenue and Carver Street around 7 last night. They are now recovering. Anyone with information about the incident is being asked to call Crime Stoppers at the website or number on your screen. A follow-up on yesterday's hostage situation in Bradenton, where police shot and killed a suspect. Glenn Wattenpool's neighbors say for years he has demonstrated paranoid, threatening, and criminal behavior. Several complaints were filed with management, which led to Wattenpool's eviction, and the eviction is apparently what triggered Wattenpool to take the manager of Pescara Lake Park hostage yesterday.
About maybe 2.5 years ago, he started having problems. He started thinking that people in the park were out to get him, and he changed drastically. From calling me a friend and a neighbor, he started calling me nasty names.
Today, the manager reenacted the incident with deputies. 4 SWAT team members were involved in the shooting and are on administrative leave while the investigation continues. In Arcadia, the woman who killed 3 young boys by setting a house on fire could be put to death. Prosecutors announcing this week they plan to seek the death penalty against Marion Williams. She faces 3 charges of first-degree murder along with attempted murder and arson. Marion will be arraigned on Monday in DeSoto County. Remember all the fuss about the skydiving school in Venice before it opened? Well, the city of Venice is now stopping the business from operating at Venice Airport for the time being. This comes after a number of jumpers landed outside the grounds of the airport. In fact, one landed more than a mile away at Venice High School. Operators blame shifting winds, but the airport director says many jumpers aren't even landing in proper zones near the runways.
We suspended the operation because it's the city council that would actually make the decision whether or not to terminate the agreement with them.
I think that now that that's been put in place, we do deserve a little longer than 30 days to try to work out any kinks.
The City Council will discuss the matter next Tuesday. Manatee High School is a powerhouse football team, but tonight there is shock from players and staff after their coach announced he's out. John Booth is leaving coaching for now after 3 seasons with the Hurricanes. He says it's too difficult to support a family on the salary he earns. Coaches get paid the same as teachers, plus a $4,500 bonus. New contracts are also raising the cost of insurance premiums for teachers in Manatee. Booth is taking a job as a financial advisor. Booth led the Hurricanes to 2 district titles with a 28-9 record. He and his wife recently had their 4th child. Venice's Shark Tooth Festival is getting underway this weekend. It is underway tonight. Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan is there with a first check on the weather. Bob.
Thanks, Alan. A beautiful night tonight. Albeit a bit windy. It's a cool one, too, at that. Temperatures are expected to drop tonight, but this is the 25th annual Shark's Tooth Festival taking place here at the airport in Venice, right on the grounds here. Free parking, $4 to get in. If you're under 12, it's free with your parents, obviously. And there's 3 tents full of shark's teeth here to check them out. On top of that, many different booths. We have Moat Marine's laboratory here, the rolling laboratory they bring around a lot of the festivals. This is a big deal here, raising money for all the Sarasota special athletes here along the Sun Coast. It's a great event, so come on out and help support that event. Here's what's happening. The Casey Key webcam showing some high surf today, and that high surf is slowly going to come down over the weekend. Still be rough going tomorrow morning, but should subside in the afternoon. All the advisories have been lifted for the weekend, too, in terms of the rip currents as well as the small craft advisories. Well, the weather headlines read like this: a chilly night ahead, sunny weekend, and staying dry. Unfortunately for firefighters, it's going to be a tough weekend, I think, with some strong northwest winds, at least in the morning. And cool and dry conditions expected to stay with us. We have a high fire danger in effect until 8 o'clock tonight. That will expire, but more than likely be back with us tomorrow afternoon. 69 degrees right now. The dew point extremely low at 37 degrees. That makes the humidity at 31%. We have a north to northwest wind at 16. The pressure 30.04 inches, and that is rising. The high today was 75. We'll see highs tomorrow in the low 70s. Lows tonight, we'll get to those in a little bit, are expected to be into the mid to upper 40s in places. Details on all that coming back in a little bit. Back to you, Alan.
Still to come, Bob. Turning a corner, the Trump administration has suffered some major defeats, from failing to repeal Obamacare to an ongoing investigation into ties with Russia. But is the tide turning as Trump's Supreme Court nominee is confirmed and an overnight attack on Syria wins praise? We'll have the latest when we return.
Check out My Suncoast Dining on mysuncoast.com, your guide to the foodie lifestyle. ABC7's own Chef Judy serves up her favorite recipes, cooking tips and trends, dining blogs, step-by-step videos, and Suncoast Restaurant Guide. You'll find it all at mysuncoast.com/dining.
The official salon of ABC7.
Are you considering joint replacement or revision surgery? Consider this. Dr. Edward Stolarski has performed thousands of successful joint replacement procedures and trained surgeons from all over the world. Using advanced technologies, Dr. Stolarski is able to perform some of the most complex surgeries.
I wish I knew about Dr. Stolarski much sooner.
After the surgery, I don't have any pain. It's like I've got a 16-year-old hip.
My name's Ed Stolarski. What I really do is I give people back their life.
Schedule a consultation today.
They're coming from Tampa, Fort Myers, even Orlando. They're coming from everywhere for the Sarasota Ford Promise. Our promise means a new car you'll love. If not, return it for one you do. At Sarasota Ford, we promise live market pricing. We monitor national pricing on our entire inventory, so you get the best deal. In fact, we guarantee it. Bring us any competitor's ad, and we'll beat it by at least $1,000. That's why they're coming from everywhere to Sarasota Ford, where 41 meets 301. SarasotaFord.com.
Are you Goodwill?
Yes, because when I donate
or shop at Goodwill,
I'm creating a job.
I am Goodwill, yeah, yeah.
A unique celebration of a distinctive cultural gem in Sarasota. La Musica, the annual international festival of chamber music, with renowned musicians from 4 continents. April 3rd through April 12th at the Sarasota Opera House and at Sainer Pavilion. Buy your tickets now.
Former President Barack Obama said he was drawing a red line against the use of chemical weapons by Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad. That was in 2012. Without support from Congress to launch a strike, instead he partnered with Russia to have the Syrian regime turn over its chemical weapons. It appears that they did not, and last night President Trump took action, ordering a missile attack. ABC's Kenneth Moten has the latest.
President Trump's administration has been busy today briefing Congress and telling the international community the president had every right to launch that missile strike. Today, members of Congress asking the Trump administration what's next after his first major military action, strikes on Syria. 59 Tomahawk cruise missiles launched from 2 American warships in the Mediterranean, striking a Syrian airbase. President Trump giving the order from his Mar-a-Lago estate, changing his mind about Syrian President Bashar al-Assad after this week's deadly chemical weapons attack.
Assad choked out the lives of helpless men, women, and children. It was a slow and brutal death.
Syria and Russia calling the strike an act of aggression. UN Ambassador Nikki Haley at an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council.
It is in our vital national security interest to prevent the spread and use of chemical weapons.
Senators were briefed Friday on Capitol Hill. All agree Assad needs to be held accountable, disagreeing after Trump didn't ask for congressional approval to strike.
The power to declare war resides in Congress. It was illegal for President Obama to bomb Libya. It's also illegal for President Trump to bomb Syria.
You got to bring this to Congress with a plan that tells Congress what is involved, what's the end game.
The top Republican in the Senate says at this point that debate is not needed.
I think this strike was simply about don't use chemical weapons again. That's what this strike was about. So I don't think it necessarily leads to another conclusion.
But many members of Congress say Assad must go, and they want a comprehensive plan from the Trump administration. Kenneth Moten, ABC News, Capitol Hill.
The strike comes amid a turbulent week. Senate Republicans triggering the nuclear option. The House Intel chair recusing himself from a probe into Trump and Russia. We'll have analysis of it all in a moment. We take it to the trapezoid.
It took a lot of work and dedication for 7 teachers to start our credit union and create a foundation that we continue to build on today. At Achieva, we never lose sight of the values that have defined us for over 75 years. And that's good to know. Achieva, banking for good.
Attention blood clot filter patients. Surgically implanted blood clot filters are potentially life-threatening. Some filters are prone to breaking, resulting in pieces of the filter moving through the body and causing internal bleeding. If you had surgery to implant a blood clot filter, you may be entitled to a cash award, even if you haven't suffered side effects yet. Call the Gold Shield Group now, 888-747-5291, to see if you qualify for a cash award, 888-747-5291.
I knew I could get myself out of this. I just needed some hope and some help.
I took the first step to recovery when I made the call.
Since 2014, Addiction Hope and Helpline has answered calls for recovery and treatment 24/7, 365 days a year. If you're depressed, drinking, using drugs, or taking pills, call now and talk to someone who cares.
I had problems just getting to sleep, drinking and using pills every night.
I feel like I'm losing control. I'm afraid I'll lose my job or even my family.
Most insurance covers substance abuse. You can get back on track. Call now for hope and help with proven gentle recovery programs.
I never thought that I could be somebody who didn't drink and use drugs.
I have something to hold on to for strength. I'm in recovery, getting the help I need.
Call 800-622-1941. 800-622-1941.
Is your old garage door stuck or broken? Would a new one give you a lift? Let Precision Door Overhead Garage Door Service of Sarasota come to the rescue with prompt and affordable repair service. Replacement doors come with an array of styles and colors, and they are rated to meet and exceed Florida standards. From estimates to installation, your satisfaction is our priority. If you're not 100% satisfied with any product, service, or installation, we will make it right, because Precision Door Service is a name you can trust.
It took a lot of work and dedication for 7 teachers to start our credit union and create a foundation that we continue to build on today. At Achieva, we never lose sight of the values that have defined us for over 75 years, and that's good to know. Achieva, banking for good.
Welcome back. A commander-in-chief taking decisive action and a newly minted Supreme Court justice. The chemical attack by Syria's dictator Assad on his own people is an atrocity. It was also an opportunity for Trump to do a 180 on his long-held position to stay out of Syria. The Supreme Court picked Neil Gorsuch is being confirmed despite reservations. Many Republicans voted for Trump because he would get to make an appointment to the High Court. However, congressional Republicans had to blow up Senate rules to confirm Gorsuch after a Democratic filibuster, and there's still Russia. The House Intelligence Chair stepping down because of his questionable actions during the probe into whether the Trump campaign colluded with the Russians during the presidential campaign. And joining us for analysis is David Samuel, president of the Northport Area Republican Club, Keith Fitzgerald, political science professor at New College of Florida. He was also a Democratic member of the Florida House, and Mitch Perry, reporter for FloridaPolitics.com. Gentlemen, welcome, and David, welcome to the trapezoid.
Thank you very much.
Obviously, the story of the day is Syria, and David, let me get your take here, because up until today, I mean, over how many years did Trump tweet out urging President Obama not to get involved in Syria, and some 70 days into his administration, he's bombing it?
Well, Mr. Trump, or President Trump, I believe is adapting to the situations as they occur. This is something he does very well. That's why a lot of people voted for him. In Northport, which is South County, voters wanted someone who would stand up to monsters like Syrian president, Iran, and Russia, and this is what he's doing right now.
Although, you know, again, during the campaign and prior to it, he said that there is nothing the U.S. can gain out of getting involved with this.
Well, like I say, he's adapting to the situation as it occurs. His advisors are telling him what they need to do, what he needs to do, and he's adapting to that and following direction of.
Well, and I think you saw, you know, you're right. I mean, he said something, but again, yeah, when you are actually in the Oval Office and have the command of the world at your hands, things are different. It would take President Trump at his word. He was emotionally reacting to what happened when we saw the footage from Tuesday from the chemical attack, which has happened actually many times over the years. We remember mostly in 2013 when President Obama went over his red line, which of course he ultimately decided not to act. You know, the question is what happens next, all right? I mean, this is like a major event, but as you even heard in the setup here, Mitch McConnell talks about we don't need to discuss this in Congress. A lot of Republicans and Democrats say it should come before Congress.
You know, Trump tweeted that the president has to get the okay from Congress, which he has not done yet.
Yeah, and so I would like to think that this is some sign of decisiveness and understanding. I don't think it is really. Remember, these are the very same people, the Syrians and the Russians, who Donald Trump has spent the last year and a half cozying up to and apologizing for. I think part of what's happened is that there's been a shift in power within the White House, and he's listening now to established hands, but that's for today.
Right. Let me ask you this, Keith, because one can debate whether or not this strike will be effective, whether it is part of an actual strategy, but it looks good. The president looked presidential last night. He was decisive. And in the position that he is, he's had a number of real rough weeks. Isn't this what he needed?
Well, first of all, I don't think that there's a whole lot of disagreement that the measure itself was an appropriate one. And had he gone to Congress to get approval, I think he would have gotten it, and very quickly. It was proportionate. I don't think anybody, on the other hand, thinks it's going to tip the balance, change the map over there in any significant way. It was a simple statement that we can't do this. But what we don't see is any clear coherence or plan. And when you send signals, they have a much greater impact when people know exactly what they mean. And we have similar concerns with what's going on in North Korea as well, where sending a signal is only valuable if it's part of an overall picture that everyone can interpret.
Well, and he says, he's been cozying up to Russia, but he talks about the association with Russia. Well, Russia's not happy with what happened last night. And Rex Tillerson, who's been very somnolent for his first 7 weeks as Secretary of State, has been quite outspoken the last 24 hours. I don't know if he's found his voice in this whole action. Nikki Haley, we've seen what she's been talking about at the United Nations. So, this one of the reasons why people didn't want the United States to get involved at all in Syria is because you've got Russia already involved there. And I know we gave them a call to warn them ahead of time, but this now creates something that didn't exist 24 hours ago.
David, if you were to be a conspiracy theorist, you would say that this, in some measure, is a good way to show that you are not cozying up to Russia because of all the investigations that have taken place up until now.
Well, I wouldn't even consider that, but let me mention, going back to what we're talking about before, first of all, Congress approves declaration of wars. This was something that had to be done quickly, and that's why President Trump did not go right to congressmen at that very instant. Also, a cohesive plan where there's details. I think he mentioned in his campaigning that he's not going to tell folks what he's going to do, the enemy. He can give general statements, but there has to be some suspense. Right. And also, there's a lot of support going on in neighboring countries, Turkey, Jordan.
All right, we're going to pick up this conversation in just a moment after we check the weather.
The Sarasota Film Festival is March 31st through April 9th, featuring independent films from around the world, panels, parties, and conversations with stars, all happening in downtown Sarasota.
You don't want to miss it, so get your festival guide and choose the films and events you want to attend.
Buy your tickets online, by phone, or at the Hollywood 20 box office. They go fast, so get them now.
So join us to see and be seen.
I'm calling in regards about my mother, and I'm here, and I just want to thank you because it saved my mother's life yesterday. And I'd like to know the names of the people that came in and saved her so I could call and thank them. And she's doing fine. It's a wonderful thing. Thank you.
When you fall and cannot get up, an accident can turn into a tragedy. But with Life Alert, one touch of a button can get you help fast. Life Alert saves a person from a catastrophe every 10 minutes.
Life Alert is a lifesaver. If it weren't for Life Alert, I wouldn't be sitting here today.
For a free Life Alert brochure, call 1-800-962-4112. That's 1-800-962-4112. Call now, 1-800-962-4112. For a free brochure, call 1-800-962-4112.
The Sarasota Film Festival is March 31st through April 9th, featuring independent films from around the world, panels, parties, and conversations with stars, all happening in downtown Sarasota.
You don't want to miss it, so get your festival guide and choose the films and events you want to attend.
Buy your tickets online, by phone, or at the Hollywood 20 box office. They go fast, so get them now.
So join us to see and be seen.
Whether a family member needs a little extra help around the house, assistance recovering from a hospital stay, or someone to check in on them throughout the week, Right at Home's in-home care is the answer. Your loved one deserves the right care, and now we need caregivers to help give the right care for the right reasons, the right way. At Right at Home, we're one of the only private home health agencies in this area with the opportunity to earn paid time off. If you're someone who loves helping people, take a look at our website and click on Jobs to join our team today.
Our discussion of the week in Washington continues in a moment, but right now let's get a check on our weather with Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan. He joins us from the Shark Tooth Festival in Venice.
Well, thanks, Alan. I'll tell you, we are here at the 25th Annual Shark's Tooth Festival, and it's packed still. Gates close at 9 o'clock tonight. They're back open at 10 tomorrow in the morning, and it goes until 9 tomorrow, and then 10 to 5 on Sunday. ABC7 will have a booth, so stop on out. Currently, at the Sarasota-Bradenton Airport, we are looking at generally fair skies up and down the coast, and that's the way it is at the airport. The dew point is at 37 degrees. That's low, and the humidity extremely dry right now, 31%. Winds are out of the north-northwest at 16. The pressure 30.04. That is rising. Well, the high today was 75, although temperatures were falling throughout most of the afternoon. No rainfall to report. We could use a little bit of rain, and we're not going to get much in the next 7 days. That's good news for the big festival here tonight and tomorrow and Sunday, but really bad news for firefighters, as we could see some of those over the weekend. Temperatures for lows tonight, extremely cold for this time of year. 45 in Northport with a wind blowing out of the north and northwest. It'll make it feel even colder. 47 at Lakewood Ranch, and we have Music on Main tonight taking place too. A lot of folks out there enjoying some great music. And 53 the expected low at Anna Maria. The temperature's a little bit warmer right near the water, where the water temperature now is into the mid-70s. Winds will be out of the north and northwest throughout the day on Saturday. Not all that strong, anywhere from 5 to 10 miles an hour. We will see them picking up a little bit during the morning, but then subsiding throughout the afternoon. The hourly forecast for Saturday looks like this. Sunshine, plenty of it, high temperatures below average. Our average high 79. We'll only get into the low 70s throughout the day tomorrow, and it'll be quite comfortable too. Look at the RPM forecast model. It shows abundance of clear skies covering most of the southeast. A few showers down south along that old frontal boundary, but nothing going on here. National satellite and radar imagery showing one storm exiting the northeast while another one moves in of the Pacific Northwest. And as temperatures go, it's warm over North Dakota. 74 there, some Chinook wind effects. 60 in Minneapolis, 46 in Cleveland, and 47 now in Washington. Well, boating weather, northeast winds 10 to 15 knots. Seas will be 2 to 4 feet. Now those winds I mentioned will come down a little bit, and so will the seas in the afternoon. Better boating on Sunday. The water temperature now at 76 degrees. Tides upcoming, high tide at 11:16. Low will be at 6:28 tomorrow morning. Sunset at 7:51. Sunrise at 7:13 tomorrow. Well, tonight, much cooler, mostly fair, 49 for a low, and that's well below average. North winds 10 to 15 will make it feel colder tomorrow morning. Then tomorrow, a beautiful day, 74 for a high, not as windy, and lots of sunshine. The extended forecast calls for more of the same on Sunday, although we will start to see temperatures get back to 80 degrees on Sunday, and then all throughout the work week next week, highs will be into the low to mid-80s. And notice there's no mention of rain in the forecast, which is good news for the 25th Annual Shark's Tooth Festival. Al will be right back with the panel right after this. Have a great weekend.
The Sarasota Film Festival is March 31st through April 9th, featuring independent films from around the world, panels, parties, and conversations with stars, all happening in downtown Sarasota.
You don't want to miss it, so get your festival guide and choose the films and events you want to attend.
Buy your tickets online, by phone, or at the Hollywood 20 box office. They go fast, so get them now.
So join us to see and be seen.
Credit card debt can ruin your life. If you owe $10,000 and minimum payments are siphoning away your paycheck each month, you can get debt-free in less time than you think.
I've paid $800 a month for the past 3 years and haven't changed the balance on my credit card.
Get debt-free now has a program to reduce your debt, stop the harassing phone calls, avoid financial ruin, and settle for less than you owe.
I feel like a huge weight has been lifted off my shoulders.
You're pre-approved for our special hardship program if you owe $10,000 or more. Upon payment of your new lower balance, your debt will finally shrink until you are debt-free.
My family no longer has 30 years of payments ahead of us at 20% interest.
There's no fees until you see results. So call now, make one monthly program payment, and free up your cash. Resolve your debt.
Call 800-685-6422, 800-685-6422.
Florida Studio Theater presents Piano Men, held over by popular demand through April 2nd. Attributing the virtuosity and elegance of the Piano Man, Piano Men features the works of 20th century's best pianists and songwriters, featuring songs from music icons such as Billy Joel, Stevie Wonder, and Barry Manilow. Don't miss what critics are saying is energetic, with fun and playful performances that evokes hits of an era. Piano Men is held over by popular demand. Tickets can be purchased by calling 941-366-9000 or by visiting FloridaStudioTheater.org.
When you've been in banking for a long time, it's easy to forget what it was like in the beginning. It took a lot of work and dedication for 7 teachers to start our credit union and create a foundation that we continue to build on today. At Achieva, we never lose sight of the values that have defined us for over 75 years. We know you need mobile banking and lightning-fast solutions, but sometimes you might just need a helping hand. Any bank can make a transaction, but it takes a little more to make a difference. And that's good to know. Achieva, banking for good.
Welcome back. Missile strikes going nuclear, shaking up the investigation into Russia. If you're just joining us, we're discussing a busy week in Washington. Our guests tonight are David Samuel of the Northport Republican Club, political science professor Keith Fitzgerald, and politics reporter Mitch Perry. Gentlemen, as I said at the outset, a lot of people, a lot of good Republicans who were not really thrilled with Donald Trump voted for him because of the Supreme Court nomination, which happened today. Neil Gorsuch is going to be a Supreme Court justice. It's very hard to argue that this is not a feather in the cap of Donald Trump, Keith.
Well, it's a direct outcome of the election. Elections matter. They won, and they also won in the Senate, at least enough to have the majority, and that was it. I think that what the Democrats did not do a great job of, I'll criticize the Democratic Party on this, is they could never figure out how to message this guy, because they tried to make it a personal appeal and they tried to make it out like he might be biased against different groups or individuals. The fact of the matter is, the reason that people on the left side, or the center for that matter, should be upset about Gorsuch is that he is probably the most philosophically extreme Supreme Court justice we've had in 100 years.
Right, but that was not the only reason why the Democrats opposed him. It is, Dave, because a lot of Democrats believe that this is a stolen seat, that Merrick Garland was not even given a hearing, and that therefore, this was a stolen seat, and that's not fair play.
That's still not a good reason, because in the past, when Mr. Gorsuch was being approved for, I believe, a federal district court, he had strong support from the Democrats in the vote. And all of a sudden, we're seeing politics again. And this is where a lot of people are getting sick of this. A lot of Republicans voted for Trump because you've probably heard the chants, drain the swamp. And they're seeing the same thing happen again in this situation. And they're tired of it.
Mitch, the Supreme Court was talked about during the presidential campaign, but in the end, in terms of when you covered the electorate, all those rallies out there, just people who, are working on a daily basis, did they really think about the Supreme Court and the implications?
I do think they did, because, it may depend, obviously, on what specific voters, but that really, look, we all know Hillary Clinton, there was not a huge wellspring of enthusiasm, but people would say, you know what, though, I worry about the Supreme Court. That was something that Democrats talked about. I'm going to say something, though, today there's a big deal because the nuclear option was unveiled here, and he got, was approved with less than 60 votes. Personally, I'm okay with that. I know that because this is not like it's sacred in the Constitution. This is something that the filibusters come up in, in recent decades, and you'd like to get, a consensus. But I personally think even on regular up and down votes in Congress that they shouldn't do this, because it's so hard to pass things with 60 votes these days.
But the difference is, what people are afraid about is if you only need 51 votes to get a Supreme Court justice, that presidents, whether they're Republican or Democrat, are going to nominate the most polarizing, the most true liberal or conservative, and that is dangerous for the court for years to come. Dave?
Ellen, I'd like to go back to what you were asking, of what the people were thinking during the election about a Supreme Court justice. I was at the early voting table in Northport every single day, and a lot of people mentioned that. And we're talking about young and old. In fact, Democrats that were now switching over to the Republican ticket. And a lot of folks, that was a main concern.
And I know it was a concern among Democrats, Keith, but it was not a motivator.
Well, I think most people had their position on that pretty well staked out. So Democrats were on one side and Republicans on the other. But it was mentioned a lot of times in decisions. And I would like to say about the filibuster is that I think your point about the Supreme Court being a little bit different is a salient one. And part of the problem is that the partisanship leads to now the court becoming so ideologically polarized that any kind of middle ground is becoming tougher and tougher, and that's a big deal. On policy issues, I agree with you, actually. I think what they got to do is go back to the old way you did a filibuster, that you could only filibuster if you actually filibustered.
Right, like Strom Thurmond did back in the day.
And gentlemen, let's make it clear, other things have not gone away, including the Russia investigation, and we saw today something, not today, earlier this week, something absolutely incredible where the House Intelligence Committee Chairman, Devin Nunes, had to take a backseat in this investigation because of the kerfuffle over his taking information to the White House. Dave, what do you make of that?
Again, it's politics, and I think he's stepping out to help Trump and the Republicans and show that he understands and he wants to make sure that everything's done correctly. I believe the next chairman will be more careful and more select in what he does, or she. And is it Mr. Rooney from Florida?
Yes, our Congressman Rooney, who represents our area south of Clark Road, all the way up to Lake Okeechobee. He is now taking a leadership role on the investigation. But it also seems that you're acknowledging that Congressman Nunes screwed up.
Well, I'm not saying he screwed up. I think he's being a gentleman, and he wants to show that there's nothing to hide and that he's letting a new person take over and let the committee deal with it and do it the right way.
Well, look, when the Constitution was written, they did not think there would be political parties. And they thought that the branches of government would keep each other in check. And we should honor that aspect of the Constitution. It's unthinkable that a member of the congressional branch would be secretly going to the White House to do their bidding in a public relations show to undercut an investigation of the executive branch. That's just not the way this whole thing is supposed to work. So it's a big deal.
Mitch, up until now, tonight, we are talking about a missile strike, a Supreme Court nominee, a Russian investigation. What we're not talking about is legislation. You see that the Republicans are trying to, bring the health care bill back.
Yeah. And they talk about tax reform later this year.
Tax reform, infrastructure.
Right.
But there has been nothing so far in terms of...
there has not been a tangible victory, and that still needs to happen. And it's interesting because Congress is breaking for 2 weeks starting yesterday. And I know that the president met with Paul Ryan. And apparently I was reading that he was trying to have a vote, not on the major thing, but on a smaller issue with health care just yesterday. And Ryan said, no way, we don't have it. We're not ready to do that. But Ryan did say in USA Today that he's prepared to come back in the next couple of months. I think that before the summer's over, they're coming back with that, though. They have to come back with that, right, Alan? I mean, that is not going away, and I don't think anybody in the Republican base are trying to get the Freedom Caucus to come around on this. So we're going to wait and see on that. Tax reform, which is another huge issue, that I'm very skeptical that's going to happen.
We have
this
less
year.
than a minute left. But Dave, I want to get your response, because how long do Republican voters stay patient in terms of they voted for repealing Obamacare and tax reform, and so far there are no signs that's any closer?
Okay, I think they understand that President Trump's only been in office 75 plus some days, and it takes a while to get situated and get these things done. As a political science, gentleman next to me understands that it's not simple to get bills to become laws.
Which is why it was crazy to try to vote for it in 2 weeks, like they were doing last month.
It shouldn't be so hard for the House of Representatives, though, because the Republicans were in the minority for 8 years, and they should have had all these things lined up on the runway ready to go, as, to their credit, the Democrats did back in 2009.
Okay, let's take a quick break, and when we return, we'll have final thoughts from our guests, and we'll hear what some of you are saying about the strike on Syria.
Sarasota Magazine and PNC Wealth Management present the Best of Sarasota Soiree at Selby Gardens on April 24th.
It's an evening to sip, savor, and celebrate Sarasota Manatee's Best of Winners.
This year will be full of Warhol-inspired surprises, entertainment, and a tribute to those representing the best in our community.
Come join ABC7 for all the fun.
Get your tickets today at sarasotamagazine.com.
Check out My Suncoast Dining on mysuncoast.com, your guide to the foodie lifestyle. ABC7's own Chef Judy serves up her favorite recipes, cooking tips and trends, dining blogs, step-by-step videos, and Suncoast Restaurant Guide. You'll find it all at mysuncoast.com/dining.
So many times we underestimate the human spirit's drive to recover. We often see people surpass what any of us might have expected initially. The Rehabilitation Pavilion at Sarasota Memorial is the top of the line. It allows us to really bring the patient's recovery to the next level.
What does it mean when New South Window says Factory Direct?
It means we have a factory.
It means we eliminate the middleman.
It means you get an award-winning, energy-efficient window at factory direct prices.
Plus, New South windows are made in Florida.
Port Florida Home.
By Florida workers. Because we know Florida weather.
Right now, buy 2 windows, get the 3rd free, plus our lifetime warranty. New South Window, we manufacture, we install, we guarantee. Call now.
Welcome back. A military strike on Syria, a Supreme Court confirmation, a shakeup in the probe in the Russian interference investigation. It was a busy week for the Trump administration. How will it impact the presidency going forward? Our guest joining us right now for final thoughts. Good week for the president, Dave, but is at some point, if something ticks him off, is he going to go back to his angry tweeting and cause another whatever?
I don't consider it angry tweeting. It's a form of communication. Young people love it.
Often untrue.
And he's countering the fake news that's out there, and he's coming out and he's giving his...
The fake news is not that President Obama tapped his phones or that 3 million illegals voted. So that stuff has gotten him into a lot of trouble.
Trump is Trump, and that's what's going to continue. And he'll probably slow down on that since he's got these crisis situations going on. But that's why a lot of people like him. Right. He's open with the people.
Keith?
So he had a good week in part because he listened to the Democrats in the White House. And I think
you mean his son-in-law?
His son-in-law and a couple of other advisors as well who are known to be Democrats. And it really has some of the people on the right very upset. But I think there's a reason for that because the people are in the middle or on the modest left. And when he does things that seem to be in line with what most people want, his popularity will go up.
You're right. I mean, look at the health care bill, which was a disaster because who wanted it, right? 17% of the people, and it was totally this right-wing cabal who was like trying to push it through, and it was hurting his own voters. So he's not ideological. I think we've seen that. But when he wins with the Republican machine, that's when he's gotten in trouble. The travel ban, which is really kind of harsh, hardcore. Now you mentioned about the tweeting. Tomorrow, Saturday morning, that's when he's been known to throw some of those wild ones out there. So we'll have to wait and see what happens by noon tomorrow.
All right, gentlemen, thank you. But before we go, we want to share with you what some of our viewers are saying about the U.S. strike on Syria. June Novak writes, here we go again. Rob Murphy writes, Obama made a deal with Russia to remove all the chemical weapons from Syria in 2014. So were they never removed? Where did Syria get them? Are these the WMDs that disappeared from Iraq when we invaded? Either way, if you're willing to use chemical weapons on your own people, what are you willing to do to the rest of the world? And Kathy Hart writes, I long for the day when the U.S. is no longer at war. Let us know what you think about the week in Washington. Join the conversation on our Facebook page at facebook.com/news@7. And FYI, want to watch past roundtable discussions? They're available on Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. Thanks to our guests for being here tonight. David Samuel is president of the Northport Area Republican Club. Keith Fitzgerald is a political science professor at New College and former Democratic member of the Florida House. And Mitch Perry is a reporter for FloridaPolitics.com. When we return, we'll keep you up to date on the conversation going with the political director from ABC Network News. And plus, payback time. Florida House wants to settle lawsuits for removing hundreds of thousands of healthy citrus trees, but there could be a problem. We'll explain in our primetime headlines.
There's a whole new way to bank at Achieva Credit Union with Achieva Checking Plus. Get new unique features like full ID theft protection and online shopping rewards. Plus, it's an interest-bearing account, so you have a little extra for what really matters. Achieva Checking Plus isn't just an account for your money, it's for your life, including cell phone insurance. And that's good to know. Discover the plus at achievacu.com. Achieva, banking for good. Achieva Credit Union is federally insured by the NCUA.
This is an important medical announcement. Xarelto and Pradaxa have been linked to uncontrollable bleeding and even death. If you've been prescribed one of these drugs and have experienced these dangerous side effects, you may be entitled to substantial compensation. Studies show that Pradaxa can cause more heart attacks than warfarin, and other countries have already issued safety warnings against this drug. Call now for a free assessment of your case and potential money damages. The call is confidential, there's no cost, and you may be eligible. Juries have awarded millions of dollars to Pradaxa victims, and thousands of Xarelto victims are filing their legal cases. Call the Drug Watch hotline if you or a loved one used Xarelto or Pradaxa and experienced uncontrollable bleeding, brain hemorrhage, or even death. You must call now.
Call 800-793-6055. 800-793-6055.
Welcome back. It has been a week of seismic changes, from the missile strikes on Syria to Senate Republicans taking the nuclear option to the ongoing investigation into links between the Trump campaign and officials in Washington. Joining us to make sense of these new developments is Rick Klein, ABC News political director. Rick, every week we take a look at the young administration, and for the most part, the storylines have not been really favorable. Now you have the president acting presidential as commander-in-chief and getting a Supreme Court pick on the bench. Does this change the narrative, at least for now?
It puts him on an upswing, and those are important developments. Either one of those, authorizing military strikes, confirming a Supreme Court justice, those go on your highlight reel for the first 100 days. And I think particularly this White House, which has had so few big highlights, these are two enormous ones. And I think both domestically and in foreign policy. Now, we'll see where they lead, particularly with the Syria decision. There, you have to follow it up with something, and it will be closely watched in Congress and on the international stage. But for now, I think the Trump White House has an ability to have a little sigh of relief for a change. It's been a while since they felt good about where things were going.
You know, a lot of people look at his approval ratings as a benchmark about how he's doing, and some polls have it as low as 35%. Is it fair to say, after the missile strikes and the Supreme Court vote, that we may expect a uptick next week? And does that mean anything in the big picture?
I think it's a fair assumption to think that the president's going to solidify his base of support based on the positive news items. Traditionally, after a big national security crisis, decisive action rewarded in polls. Here's where it matters. There are members of Congress who are about to go around the country for a 2-week recess, and they're taking a test and a gauge of where the president stands. And if they're hearing from members and they're hearing from constituents and seeing numbers that say this is a president that has a strong base, that helps the agenda. That moves things along. It actually has that kind of impact. So I think particularly because the numbers have been so low, he needs positive signs. If he wants to start moving a legislative agenda, we know about the lowlights of these first 100 days and how few things they've been able to get through Congress. They need to get some wins on the board, and this will only help.
And we're talking about bringing the health care bill back, and infrastructure and tax reform. Are those things really must-dos right now in order to get this legislative agenda on track?
Well, those are the biggies. I think between health care, tax reform, and infrastructure, those are the top 3 lists for this White House. And they've already struck out on health care. They may try it again, but I think it's hard to build coalitions on the other ones. And beyond that, it's just hard to say where the president's priorities are. This is what he's talked about. This is what he wants done. They are big, vexing, enormous issues that are hard to build coalitions around. A president at a low point in power has an even harder time. At least this week gives them some reason for hope that there's a way to stitch back together some of the potential partnerships you need to get things done.
And we have less than a minute left, but I did want to ask you about Russia. You know, a lot of local Republicans say, you know, it's really only the Democrats who care about this investigation. What's happening doesn't bother many Republicans. How is this playing up in Washington? Are there Republicans up there who think that the allegations or the suspicions are serious?
There are people in both parties that are taking it seriously. Clearly, it has partisan overtones, but there are Republicans digging into this. The chair of the House committee, the chair of the Senate committee, of course, they have a new person taking over that investigation in the House after Devin Nunes stepped down. But they are taking this seriously, and I don't think there's anything in what's happening with Syria that derails that or changes that equation, that calculus. They will get to the bottom of this. They're finding things that they're not happy about. They're finding things that are raising more questions. It's going to last a while, and I do think it'll be bipartisan ultimately in its results.
All right. Rick Klein, thank you for helping us break down some of the very critical issues with us. Rick Klein is political director for ABC News. Your primetime headlines are coming up in a moment.
Sarasota Magazine and PNC Wealth Management present the Best of Sarasota soiree at Selby Gardens on April 24th.
It's an evening to sip, savor, and celebrate Sarasota Manatee's best of winners.
This year will be full of Warhol-inspired surprises, entertainment, and a tribute to those representing the best in our community.
Come join ABC7 for all the fun.
Get your tickets today at SarasotaMagazine.com.
You love your couch and want to protect it from spills, food, and scratching, shedding pets. Introducing Couch Coat, the reversible, washable quilted cover that protects your couch. Shield against spills, wow, stop stains, and dirty pet paws and sharp claws. Plus, it's reversible with 2 stylish colors. Guaranteed to fit any couch up to 92 inches or your money back. It even has covers to protect armrests. Machine washable too.
My grandkids destroy everything, but with Couch Coat, my couch is always protected, looking as good as it did the day I bought it.
Get your Couch Coat for just $19.99, and it's reversible in brown and cream, like 2 couch coats for the price of 1. Order right now, and you can double your offer. Get a second Couch Coat. Just pay a separate fee. Order right now.
Call 1-800-943-0710 to get your couch coat. Call now or go to couchcoat.com. So call 1-800-943-0710. That's 1-800-943-0710. Call now.
You only have one life. Are you gambling with it? 1 in 3 adults have high blood pressure. Not knowing your numbers could cause you to lose, big time. Luckily, you can turn the odds in your favor by getting your blood pressure checked today. Don't leave your health to chance. Learn more at heart.org/HPB.
Florida Studio Theater presents Piano Men, held over by popular demand through April 2nd. Attributing the virtuosity and elegance of the Piano Man, Piano Men features the works of 20th century's best pianists and songwriters, featuring songs from music icons such as Billy Joel, Stevie Wonder, and Barry Manilow. Don't miss what critics are saying is energetic, with fun and playful performances that evokes hits of an era. Piano Men is held over by popular demand. Tickets can be purchased by calling 941-366-9000 or by visiting floridastudiotheater.org.
Now for your primetime headlines. As we have been discussing tonight, a new justice will soon take the bench at the U.S. Supreme Court. Neil Gorsuch was confirmed after Republicans invoked the nuclear option. ABC's Stephanie Ramos has the latest.
The question occurs on the confirmation of Neil M. Gorsuch of Colorado to be an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court.
Judge Neil Gorsuch has a clear path now to the Supreme Court bench only after a unique change in Senate rules.
The ayes are 54, the nays are 45. The nomination is confirmed.
For 2 days, most Democrats tried to block this vote from happening with a short-lived filibuster.
This is an extreme nominee from the far right.
And they succeeded, but that's when Republicans decided to go nuclear. breaking out the so-called nuclear option in order to vote today to confirm Judge Gorsuch by 51 votes instead of the historically needed 60 votes.
Unfortunately, it has brought us to this point.
But Democrats say they didn't start this fight. Many are still angry after Republicans didn't give President Obama's nominee, Merrick Garland, a chance to fill the vacancy. And that was more than a year ago.
They were the ones that wouldn't give Judge Garland a hearing.
This is not how Supreme Court justices have been confirmed in the past. But this latest power move by Republicans clears the way for Gorsuch.
There's a reason it was dubbed the nuclear option. It's the most extreme measure with the most extreme consequences.
The swearing-in ceremony for Gorsuch will take place in D.C. sometime next week when President Trump is back in town. Stephanie Ramos, ABC News, New York.
Now to a developing story overseas. A manhunt is underway in Sweden for a suspect who police say drove a stolen beer truck down the street filled with pedestrians before crashing into a department store. 2 people were killed and many others were injured. Sweden's prime minister is describing the incident as a terrorist attack. Here in Florida, the city of Punta Gorda says it is fixing gaps at its police department, which led to the shooting death of a 73-year-old woman. An internal investigation into the department reveals there were no procedure in place to address the use of firearms and ammunition by K-9 officers during citizen training academies. They did not have to be designated a safety officer either. Last August, Officer Lee Cole shot and killed Mary Knowlton at the training academy. He is charged with manslaughter and his arraignment is Monday. Now that he is the chairman of the powerful Senate Judiciary Committee, you'd think that State Senator Greg Steube would have a better shot at getting all those bills expanding gun rights enacted into law. Not so. Steube is sponsoring measures to allow people with concealed carry licenses to bring guns into airport terminals, college campuses, and government meetings. Now it looks like they won't even get a full vote this session. One of Steube's fellow Republicans is refusing to support the bills, and supporters of the legislation say it is time to cut their losses.
Without any movement in the Senate, we decided to spend our time on things that we can actually get done.
The House did pass a bill this week allowing concealed carry guns in religious institutions, but the Senate version was blocked. Meanwhile, the House and Senate are closer to an agreement on a plan to build a reservoir south of Lake Okeechobee. The reservoir would divert another algae bloom like this one last year from the coasts. A new proposal from the Senate is nearly $1 billion cheaper with a price tag of $1.5 billion. Still fiscally conservative House Speaker Richard Corcoran says he won't support the measure, and the idea is facing resistance from the powerful sugar industry. Florida's House may also want to slash spending, but it could soon pay millions to citrus farmers. A long-running battle with homeowners whose citrus trees were torn down in a failed attempt to eradicate citrus canker could soon end. The House is proposing $66 million in its budget to settle lawsuits filed on behalf of homeowners from 2000 to 2006. The state removed hundreds of thousands of trees, including healthy ones, because of their proximity to infected trees. The Senate has not included money in its budget. And that's all the time we have for this evening. I'm Alan Cohn. Thanks for joining us. Have a great weekend.